Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel for joining us here today. A terrible disparity exists in our country today. Almost 60 years after the passage of the Equal Pay Act, women still are not compensated equally for the work that they do. Women are paid 80 cents to every dollar their male counterpart makes. That is true. But for women of color, the gender wage gap is even more severe, and it continues to widen. For every dollar made by their non-Hispanic white male counterparts, so I want to give you some examples. African American women make 61 cents. Native American women make 58 cents. And Latinas like me make 53 cents. I have been practicing in this field too, not as a lawyer, but as a worker since I was 16 years old. In my late teens, I sold stainless pipe valves and fittings. Now, experience and education is absolutely important, and it is key. But I would also challenge that technical skills and bilingual education is also important. So while they were very experienced males in this industry, and it is a male-driven industry, we each got paid a basic pay. And the difference of that was several thousands. But at the end of the month, they would add up all of our sales. And the difference of that was hundreds of thousands at the end of the year for me as a young person. Now, to their disadvantage, they sold in one language. To my advantage, I sold in 3 languages. To their disadvantage, they required an assistant to input the data into a computer. If you recall the 80s, computers were being introduced into the work field. To my advantage, I did my own data entry. And sometimes, if I really wanted something out that day, I would walk out to that warehouse and I would pull my own pipes and fittings, and I would package it and ensure that they were delivered to my customer. Those were the skills that I brought. But I knew very early on in that career that if I was going to be a mother, and that if I was going to be able to purchase a home, which I did in my early 20s, I had to leave that job. I couldn't stay there, earning pennies to the dollar. So I did. I left that job. I got another job where I would get paid equal to my male counterparts, where my health benefits were equal to my male counterparts, whether I was a single female or a married female or a homeowner or not. This is how I was able to have a child and to purchase a home early on. Attorney fees are important, and I hate that, that we have to pay attorneys. But attorney fees are important. They're important for your family, too. We only have to look at our prison system and the number of minority people of color that are within our prison system to understand that there is a disparity there, that the system is not equal for everyone, and that it has failed many people that look like me. I've offered 2 amendments to this bill that address the impact that the gender wage gap has on women of color. My first amendment recognizes the harsh reality of the gender gap on women and girls of color. My second amendment ensures that the Secretary of Labor considers the impact gender and ethnicity have in research and education efforts. If we do not measure the impact of the wage gap specifically on women and girls of color, then we don't know the scope of the problem, and it will continue to fail to address it. My amendment will ensure that all women benefit from this progress, regardless of their race or ethnicity. H.R. 7, the Paycheck Fairness Act, should be the beginning, not the cap. And I hope to see this legislation addressing comprehensive paid family medical leave, sexual harassment prevention, and improved conditions for pregnant women, affordable childcare, and much more. So the question that I have to the panel is, what is the cost of the wage differential to children of working mothers? And how many children would benefit from the passage of this law, if any of you know?
You know, I don't have exact numbers for you, but I do know when we deal with a refundable tax credits, which is not the discussion here, we have the ability through that effort to lift 40% of children and their families out of poverty in the country. The biggest economic challenge we have today, as you pointed out, that people are in jobs that just don't pay them enough money. And when we are singularly, in essence, discriminating against women, men and women, same job, same pay, simple premise, that then we don't, this is not about women, this is about their families and their children and what, in fact, they are not able to provide as a family to be able to achieve economic security.
I don't have any numbers either, but I want to respond to the first part of what you said. You make a great point. I mean, education experience is not everything. And employers should be looking at a number of factors so long as they're directly related to the performance of the requirements of that particular position. So one of the problems that I have with the way that this bill is authored is it's got this factor other than sex. Well, if you put in bona fide business-related reason, then you're forcing the employer in the defense of the case to come forward and say, why is this a bona fide business-related reason better than these other factors? So the ones you brought up, bilingual, have certain technical skills, you input your own stuff, you go get your own, you're showing some levels of value to the employer, another bona fide business-related reason that is pretty clearly understood by everybody when you go to court. If you have something like factor other than sex, who knows what that means? But I think by adding my amendment, I think we actually get to your point, but it also points out this. Employers are going to have to use different types of understandings of what they're looking for in employees depending upon the position, sometimes depending upon where that particular part of the employer's business operates, because they're different in different places. You can't have a one-size-fits-all type imprint here and expect it to work everywhere, because you're going to have positions just like the one you had where you're going to have some peculiar things there that employer should be considering and may not be.
Many times, and later I learned that this was part of my problem in that industry. I was 19, 20 years old. I could not go to a bar and rub elbows, like the guys could. So when I turned 21, that was not an option for me either because of safety issues and precautions that I felt I needed to take as a female in the workplace. I really want us to think about when we talk about supporting families and the family unit, we need to think about the fact that too many women nowadays are the heads of their own household. So they are paying the rent, they are bringing the groceries home, they are cooking, they're doing everything. And when we don't pay them the equal pay that they deserve as their male counterparts, who are we cheating? Yes, we're cheating the individual worker, but more than that, we're cheating the kids that deserve to have that extra money in their household.
Almost two-thirds of mothers in the United States are either sole breadwinners or co-breadwinners of their families. About 42% of working mothers are the sole breadwinner of the family. They don't see the bump. In fact, fathers make more than non-fathers. Mothers don't get that kind of bump. Households headed by working mothers also more likely to be in poverty. About 1 in 4 households headed by a single mother are only 1 in 4 is economically secure. Conversely, single fathers are nearly twice as likely to have incomes that provide economic security. Eliminating pay inequity would cut the poverty rate for working single mothers nearly in half, from 28.9% to 14.5%. So if you eliminate the pay gap, you'd eliminate poverty amongst women almost in half.
I think it's important to note, because there's been this discussion about experience education. Let me just run down very, very quickly. 10 largest occupations for women: registered nurses, men's earning $71,590, women $65,612. Now, in order to become a registered nurse, it would seem to me that you have to have the same level of education and experience, whether you are a man or a woman. Secretaries, administrative assistants, men 42.5, women 38.4. Elementary and middle school teachers, 55 for men, 50 for women. Customer service representatives, 37 for men, 32 for women. Accountants, auditors, 77 for men, 60,000 for women. I can go on. If you don't get to these positions without the kinds of education and experience that is relevant and that is equated, if you have the same experience as a man, as a woman, in order to achieve these. And I don't want to go on, but it does go on, which is really quite extraordinary. It is always that women are on the short end of the stick when it comes to education and when it comes to experience. Or one of the reasons in the past has been, women choose not to make as much money. That's a choice, that we just don't care about making as much money as men. Hogwash is what I say.
Thank you. I'll reclaim my time. I know that we're trying to move this meeting forward. And I'll say that maybe the reason why women are not filing complaints or filing lawsuits is the same reason why I chose to find another job and do something else. And that's, one, retaliation. I could continue there and be retaliated and probably talked about, and maybe my sales will go down, or blacklisted from the industry. There's no way, and I would much rather continue with my life and move forward. So those are, some real issues. Chairman Scott, pay parity also includes job classifications. So I look forward to coming before your committee with my 911 Saves Act. And with that, I yield back.